I still had a champagne flute in my hand when my wife's fingers locked around my forearm. Not a tap, a clamp. The kind of grip you use when a car is barreling toward a crosswalk and the person you love is standing in it. We need to leave, Eleanor breathed, barely moving her lips. Her gaze fixed somewhere past my shoulder. Right now? Don't look back yet. I felt the ice cubes shift in my glass, cold water trickling over my knuckles. Behind me, my son's laugh rang out. That same booming, easy laugh he'd had since he was a little kid. But under the noise of the party, threaded through it like a wire baked into a cake, another voice said my name. Then it said something else. Something that made Eleanor's grip tighten until it actually hurt. I'm Arthur Beckman. I'm 62, and for 29 years I ran an industrial HVAC parts distributor out of a converted warehouse in Terre Haute, Indiana. A building I bought for $35,000 with a loan my father-in-law had to co-sign, because no bank wanted to touch me alone. I grew that company from 2 delivery vans to 36. When I sold it a year and a half ago, the wire transfer read $5.8 million. Not because I was some genius, because I clocked in before sunrise for nearly 3 decades and never once missed payroll. Not even in 2009, when I put a second mortgage on our house to cover it. My son, Nathan, was 33. He'd never worked for me. His choice, and honestly, mine too. I wanted him to build something that was his. When he told Eleanor and me he'd met someone, a marketing consultant named Simone, who ran her own boutique agency, I was cautiously happy for him. When he said they were buying a house in Brookline Heights for $1.35 million, I asked gently how a 33-year-old marketing consultant and a 35-year-old property manager could swing that. Nathan just smiled. "Dad, we've got it covered." That party, the one where my wife's nails dug into my arm, was the housewarming. 40 guests, a rented bartender, string lights strung over a stone patio that cost more than my very first company van. I didn't know yet that covered meant something had already gone badly wrong, and that it was about to become my problem too. Eleanor steered me toward the bar, angling us so I could watch without turning fully around. Nathan stood near the pool with a few college buddies, drink in hand, shirt unbuttoned 1 notch too many, wearing the swagger of a man who's never had a landlord raise his rent. "My old man," Nathan was saying, loud enough now that the wire in the noise became a shout, "actually thinks this is his money. Like, because he wired the down payment as a gift, he thinks he gets a say in something." I told Simone, just let him feel important. Sign whatever he wants signed. We'll handle the real paperwork after. One friend laughed. "Bro, that's brutal." "It's just business," Nathan said, clinking glasses. "He'll never even read it. He trusts me." I had wired them $165,000 4 months earlier. Not a loan on paper. A gift, at Nathan's specific request, so there'd be no interest, no weirdness, just family helping family. I'd asked once, carefully, if we should write up something simple so everyone knew the terms. Nathan had looked almost wounded. "Dad, it's a gift. You said so. Why would we need paperwork between family?" I remembered signing that wire authorization. I remembered feeling proud. Standing there with a warm glass sweating in my palm, I understood, for the first time, that pride and understanding are not the same thing, and that I'd been confusing them for months. I didn't say a word that night. I complimented the kitchen island, drove home in silence, Eleanor's hand resting on my knee. The next morning, I called my accountant of 17 years, a meticulous man named Harold Weiss, and asked him to quietly pull the title and closing paperwork on the Brookline house. It took him 4 days. When he called back, his voice had that flat, careful register he only used when something was badly wrong. "Arthur, your gift isn't on the closing disclosure as a gift. It's listed as a loan from you, secured, but in second position, behind a $310,000 private loan from someone named Marcus Delgado. And Nathan's name isn't on the title at all. It's Simone's solely." I sat very still in my study, the same chair I'd sat in the night I signed the papers on my very first company van. "Read that back to me," I said. He did, twice. I invited Nathan to lunch and told him I wanted his business opinion on something, which wasn't entirely a lie, because watching him lie to my face was, in fact, teaching me a great deal about business. I laid out what Harold had found, calm as discussing the weather. Nathan didn't flinch. That was the part that stung the most. "Dad, that's just structuring," he said, waving his fork. "Simone's business credit is stronger than mine right now, so the title's in her name for tax purposes. Pass-through liability shielding, basically. Your money isn't a loan. It's just categorized that way for underwriting. Honestly, it protects you. If anything ever happened, you'd have a claim." "And this Marcus Delgado?" "Simone's business partner. Does bridge financing. Totally standard now, Dad. Everybody structures deals like this." He gave me the exact smile he used to give me as a boy, explaining how the neighbor's window was already cracked before he threw the ball. I nodded slowly. "That makes sense. Thanks for walking me through it." I paid the check. That afternoon, I called a real estate attorney. Renata Cole read the documents in under 12 minutes. "Mr. Beckman, this isn't structuring. This is a second lien with no repayment schedule, no interest disclosure to you as lien holder, and your son's name appears nowhere on this deed. Whoever drafted this protected the buyer from you, not the other way around. Who drew it up?" She flipped a page. "A firm called Delgado and Vance Title Services." Delgado. Same name as the bridge financing partner Nathan had mentioned. I drove to their office, told the front desk I was a prospective client, and asked to speak with someone about a residential closing. A young receptionist named Miles, eager and unguarded, pulled up general company information on his monitor while I waited, angled just enough for me to catch the letterhead. Delgado and Vance, family-owned since 2018. Founders: Marcus Delgado and Simone Vance. Simone's business partner was her brother. I sat in my car in that parking lot for a long time. My son's fiancée and her brother had engineered a deal where my $165,000 gift became a legally unprotected loan, secured a house solely in her name, run through her own family's title company, and sold it to me as tax optimization. And Nathan had known. Nathan had helped pitch it to me over a plate of overpriced short ribs. Part 5. What I Overheard in the Dark. That night, I did something I'm not proud of, and something I'd do again without a second thought. I drove back to the Brookline house at 9:45, parked 2 streets away, and walked to where I could see the kitchen through the back fence, where the party's string lights still glowed. Nathan and Simone were at the island. Simone was laughing. "Your dad literally thanked you for explaining it," she said, delighted. "Babe, he thinks he understood. That's the best part. Marcus structured it, so even if we split, or sell, or anything, his money just disappears unless we choose to give it back. He handed us $165,000 and doesn't own a single doorknob in that house." Nathan laughed too. The man built a whole company from nothing and can't read a title report. Kind of sad, honestly. I stood in the dark behind their fence, 62 years old, and felt something in my chest go very quiet and very cold, becoming confused on purpose. I told Eleanor everything the next morning. She didn't cry. She made coffee and said 5 words. I've thought about every day since. Okay, then let's be smart. We hired a forensic accountant, a former financial crimes investigator named Carol Voss, and asked her to trace the whole picture. Not just my $165,000, but Marcus Delgado's $310,000 bridge loan too. It took her 17 days. What she found was worse than one bad real estate deal. Delgado and Vance had, over the previous 3 years, run at least 10 similar transactions where family gifts were quietly converted into one-sided unsecured loans, while the title company itself collected origination fees on both the property closing and the private loan. Depending on state disclosure law, that sat somewhere between deeply unethical and outright fraud. 3 of those 10 families had already filed complaints with the State Real Estate Commission. 2 were already in litigation. My $165,000 wasn't a one-off betrayal. It was a fee-generating machine, and my own son had walked me straight into it, smiling the entire time. So I made a decision I've never told anyone about outside this story. I decided to become, deliberately, a confused old man. I started calling Nathan more, my voice a little softer, a little slower. I don't really get all this legal stuff, son. Your mother handles the bills mostly. I just want everybody happy. I let my shoulders round forward when I visited. I left my reading glasses in my shirt pocket instead of on my face, so I'd have an excuse to squint and ask Nathan to just explain the important part. I stopped bringing up the house entirely. Internally, I was doing something very different. I don't understand, bought me another week of them not covering their tracks. Every soft, confused nod kept Simone talking freely in front of me. The way people talk around someone they've decided is harmless. Eleanor played her part too, the deferential, worried wife, always agreeing that your father gets a little confused these days. We'd drive home from those visits in total silence until we hit the highway. Only then would she ask quietly, "How much did you get today?" I wasn't losing my grip. I was loosening theirs. Carol and I built the case over 3 weeks. The bait. I told Nathan I wanted to simplify things and asked him to help me draft a short memo listing the $165,000 as officially forgiven. No strings. So I can stop worrying about it, for my own peace of mind. On its face, it was exactly what a guilt-softened, confused old man would want. Structurally, with the specific language Renata drafted, it was also a document that, once signed and dated, created a clear paper trail admitting the original deal had been deliberately misrepresented to me. The recording. Indiana is a one-party consent state, meaning I could legally record any conversation I was part of. I started carrying my phone in my breast pocket, screen dark, voice memo running, every single time I visited that house. The confirmation. Carol connected Marcus Delgado's title company to 2 of the 3 families already in litigation, linking them with Renata, who quietly began coordinating a joint complaint. We set a date. Nathan and Simone's engagement dinner, 6 weeks out, hosted at our house, at their request, because it would mean so much to have your blessing here, Dad. The week before the dinner, my phone lit up at 11:47 p.m. Carol. 2 more families found. Total exposure for Delgado and Vance now estimated over $2 million. State Commission has opened a formal file. This is bigger than we thought. I sat in my dark kitchen, phone glowing, and felt the same feeling I used to get the night before a big contract closed. Not anger anymore, just readiness. The engagement dinner sat 22 people at 2 long tables, set with the good china Eleanor and I had bought back in 1993. Nathan stood to give a toast, glass raised, that same open-collar swagger from the housewarming. "To my dad," he said, grinning at the table, "who still doesn't totally get what a lien is, bless him, but who's been so generous anyway. Some men build companies. My dad built confusion. But hey, it worked out great for us." The table laughed. Simone laughed loudest, raising her glass toward me like a toast, like a trophy. I stood up slowly, the way I'd been standing for weeks, a little stiff, a little uncertain. The room quieted, expecting a sentimental toast back. "I actually understand liens quite well," I said. My voice didn't rise. It never needed to. "I understand this one in particular. It's a second lien, subordinate to a $310,000 loan from Marcus Delgado, who is Simone's brother and co-owner of the title company that closed on this house, the same title company currently under review by the State Real Estate Commission for 10 similar transactions, 3 of which are already in litigation." The room went the kind of quiet that has weight to it. I understand my $165,000 gift was never entered as a gift. I understand Nathan told me over lunch that it was structuring for tax optimization. I have that conversation recorded, along with a second one in this house's own backyard, where Nathan called the company that put him through college nothing, and where Simone said, and I'm quoting, "He handed us $165,000 and doesn't own a doorknob." I set my phone on the table, screen up, a paused audio waveform visible. Nobody reached for it. "I understand," I continued, "that 10 other families have been run through the exact same arrangement, and that 2 of them are represented by the same attorney I hired 6 weeks ago." Nathan's face had gone the color of the tablecloth. "Dad, this isn't the place." "You're right," I said. "It's not, so let's make it simple." I reached into my jacket and pulled out the folded forgiveness memo, the one Nathan had helped me draft, believing it erased his debt. I held it up so the whole table could see both signatures, then tore it once, cleanly, down the middle, and let both halves fall onto his empty plate. "That was never real forgiveness," I said. "It was evidence. And as of Monday morning, it belongs to my attorney, the State Real Estate Commission, and, if Marcus is interested, the County Prosecutor's Financial Crimes Unit, which I understand has already been in touch with Carol Voss about a pattern of fraud case." I picked my champagne glass back up, the same kind I'd been holding the night this all started, and set it back down without drinking. "I'm not confused," I said quietly. "I just wanted to see how long you two would keep talking." Within 11 days, the county prosecutor's office opened a formal inquiry into Delgado and Vance Title Services for pattern of fraud violations tied to undisclosed dual-fee lien structuring. Marcus Delgado's real estate and title licenses were suspended pending investigation 3 weeks later. 2 more families joined the civil suit, pushing total claimed damages past $2.2 million. Simone wasn't criminally charged. Investigators found no evidence she'd drafted the fraudulent terms herself, but she was named in the civil suit as a beneficiary of the structuring and lost her firm's largest client within a month after a small local news piece ran. "Local title company faces fraud probe over family gift loans." Nathan and Simone's engagement ended 9 days after the dinner. He moved out of the Brookline house that spring into an apartment his mother and I did not pay for. Miles, the young receptionist at Delgado and Vance, who'd unknowingly shown me the letterhead that cracked the whole thing open, was about to lose his job when the firm's licenses were suspended. I called him myself, gave him a personal reference, and helped him land an entry-level compliance role at a title company 2 counties over. One Renata vouched for, personally. He'd done nothing wrong. He deserved to land on his feet. It rained the night Nathan came back, 5 months later. Not a dramatic rain, just cold, steady, late autumn rain. The kind that finds its way into your collar. He stood on our porch in a coat too thin for the weather. Thinner himself than I remembered. "Dad, I know I don't deserve to ask, but I have nowhere else to go tonight." I stood in the doorway, the porch light yellow over both of us, and felt, for one honest second, 33 years of being his father pulling hard at my chest. "You have somewhere to go, Nathan," I said, keeping my voice level, the way I had all along. "It's just not here, not tonight, not until you've put as much effort into making this right as you put into explaining why it was fine." He nodded once, like he'd expected that answer, and hated that he'd hoped for another one anyway. I closed the door, not hard, not a slam, just firm, and stood there a moment, palm flat against the wood. Eleanor was in the kitchen, 2 cups of tea already poured, like she'd known. "You okay?" "I understand liens very well now," I said, and she laughed. Really laughed, the first easy laugh either of us had had in months. And for the first time since that grip on my wrist at the housewarming, the house finally felt like ours again.